Warrior, are you listening? I have some school information I think is really good news, and I want to share it with you. First of all, the state of Texas has decided they will take over Houston's public school district, one of the largest in the United States. They are not happy with the results. Children are failing, and they are going to step in, see what's going on, and empower and provide for our children. I think that's great news. Also, Florida, it was announced, will start scouring math textbooks for prohibited subjects. Now, they're also going to go into most likely social studies. I think it's a good step because we see, right, warriors, what's happened in the last couple of years, what our children are being taught. We certainly learned that during the pandemic when kids were on the computers, and that was the wake-up call. If there's any good news to come out of all of that fiasco, is that a lot of parents and caregivers finally saw and heard what their kids were being taught and how it's incorrect. I'll just leave it at that. So I think it's a good idea that we start scouring and looking at these things. And I urge all the time, we at the Warriors, we're urging, get involved in your children's education. It's a reminder, no longer sit on the sidelines. It's 2023. We see what's going on. We have to step up and take action. Then a very frightening thing, the Los Angeles public school system, the largest public school, second largest public school system in the nation, is threatening. I hear they're going to go on strike beginning next week. Now, what that means is that not only does this affect the kids as far as teachers, remember, a lot of kids go to school and they're dependent on those breakfast meals, those lunch meals. You've got bus drivers going out. What is a parent to do if they have to be at work and their child is at home? Certainly, and it's, again, parental autonomy. I can't tell you what age to leave your child home alone. What are the kids going to do? They're going to go on the computers. They're going to go on their phones. And that, of course, ding, 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 rings the bell for predation. So you might want to talk to your kids if you're in the LA area and start preparing them, that come up with some alternate plans, do something. This is one of the arguments I always thought for, believe it or not, taking children to work with you if need be, an emergency like this, having some sort of room set up for them where they can, bring books and younger ones toys. And there are companies, and there have been over the decades, but certainly not enough, because one of the toughest things where I live in New York City is childcare, is the expense of having somebody watch your child when you have to go to work and make that money. It's almost a wash with a lot of women because they, and men too, they have to spend a lot of money for childcare. So we have to really start thinking, and I know we've been talking about childcare in the United States as far back as I can remember, still not in place. Then another blow to our schools here in New York, our governor, Kathy Hochul, actually wanted to expand financing for charter schools. Now, New York City alone, their top 25 public schools, 23 of them are charter schools. And surprisingly enough, she wanted to put more into the budget for more charter schools. And a charter school is part of school choice, using your taxes to pick a school for your child, whether it's homeschooling. Different states have different laws, homeschooling, whether it's a neighborhood charter school. These charter schools are set up for the child's needs in that community. Also, it could be a Catholic school, a religious school, a Jewish school. We need to work on that program or school choice. And a lot of states are beginning to step up, certainly never and not enough. So we do have school issues in the news. And a reminder, speaking of schools, I will be speaking next week in Chatham, New Jersey at the library. So if you're in the area, free digital workshop to teach parents and caregivers, concerned citizens, what to be on the lookout for with your children and with your teens. So I feel very encouraged that at least the state of Florida, the state of Texas, stepping up. I was encouraged about my governor, Kathy Hochul, wanting to put more money into charter schools, seeing the success. You might say, then why? Why was it knocked down? Just a reminder that the Teachers Union in the United States is a very powerful, powerful organization. And the thing is, of course, it's politicized, and over the last, couple of years, indeed, has become very weaponized. And we know a lot of, almost the entire majority of the teachers union, they are kind of coerced and forced. It's actually almost like human trafficking, because the definition of human trafficking is coercion, force. A lot of teachers have confided in me over the past few years. They have to vote the way they are told to vote because they're in fear for their jobs. And who could blame them? Teachers are grossly underpaid. As far as Los Angeles and going on strike, the average teacher in Los Angeles, I'm going to even have to go back and look at this again because it's almost unbelievable, is making $25,000 a year. Who can live on $25,000 a year? I'm sure some teachers make more, but I think it was the average. I have to go back and double check that. Don't hold me to that. That's ridiculous. These are people teaching our children. These are people trying. How are we going to get good, talent if we're not going to pay them? I have such a problem with all of this because we will gladly hand over billions to foreign countries. We will gladly, be involved in these wars and finance all of that. Yesterday, I was speaking about something and I came across the fact that the United States has 750 military bases across the world in 80 different nations, but we're not taking care of our own kids, our own people here. What can we do? What we have to do is what I'm telling you to do. I very clearly see it. We have to step up and step out and take action. We start in our own homes and branch out into communities. We start with educating ourselves. We start with talking to our kids and our other family members. Why, after all, if little Timmy goes to grandma's house, you do want grandma to be aware of he's not spending the night, on his phone in his bedroom with the door closed. We also have to lead by example. Now, this is a bit of a tough one because I'm not judging, and it's nobody's fault. We got to put the devices down. We got to show the kids we are interested in them, and we too can wean ourselves off of the devices. Why, just the other day, it was announced on TikTok by a school resource officer, Officer Dave Gomez, that in Idaho, where he is, that the girls are doing the TikTok challenge of, there are other words, but I'm not going to use them because this is a family show, of flashing your breasts, and with some music played in the background. I'm just going to leave it at that. And girls are actually doing it. And you know what? Women are actually doing it. And I don't mean just, 20, 25-year-old women. There are women in their 30s and 40s and probably older doing it. We lead by example. Even if you think the kids are not watching us, they certainly are. And the focus groups we work on, the kids eventually, when we gain their trust, they want more attention, they want more dialogue, they want to talk to us. We have so many things going on with our children. We need to focus on their mental health. We need to always be on top of it and ask them if they're okay. You need to be there for them, even when they say, because kids don't confide, they're very cagey, right? You constantly follow up, because remember, they are looking at a lot of things online. They are talking to their friends. They have a lot going on that we don't even know about. And, parents, unfortunately, and devastatingly and heartbreakingly, who have lost children to suicide, they will always say the same thing almost. She was fine at the dinner table last night. I kissed him goodnight when we went to bed. I didn't know. I should have known. We really have to keep an eye on these kids. And I just want to talk about, please get involved in your child's schooling, whether homeschool, charter school, public school. The public school, I'm sorry, warriors. I know it's the best alternative for the majority of people, is the worst. And you're going to have to, on some level, get involved, whether that is you have a right, looking at that curriculum, what is your child being taught? You have a right to ask to speak to teachers. You have a right to, I hate to say it, opt out, because that's not what we want to do. We don't like something, we opt out. We want to speak about why it's not appropriate or why it's wrong. As far as, this banning of books, come on. It's a low-hanging fruit PR kind of move that everybody gets crazed about, and I don't blame them. I mean, who's putting these books in children's libraries and classrooms? with the agendas. But I think by now in 2023, we know what these agendas are. So we have to come together as a group. And that is something that we're not doing enough of, because enough of us come together as a group. What if, for instance, I live in the middle of New York City and 1 million people protested in Times Square? And I say that because in France, I saw last week that over 1 million people came together to protest their pension, which retirement is age 62, but the government wants to is raising it to 64. So 1.2 to 1.3 million people came together. We don't do that in the United States. And I believe if we started really doing things like that, and I think it's a must, because the pendulum will swing back at some point. I don't know when, but when I'm seeing states step up and talk about, we're going to go in now, the children are all failing. And think about the poor communities, what's going on there with these kids. And we have to empower them. We have to engage them. We have to do better by all our children, not just some children, those who have the luxury of going to a charter school. I'll say private, but you know what I want to say about private? It came to my attention recently. A lot of these private schools are right on the white privilege teaching. They're right on the critical race theory teaching. So it's up to you to know what's going on. I had a group of mothers come to me recently, and an all-girls school right here in New York City, very well known. They were horrified that their teenage daughters, sophomores in high school, were being given papers to write about their white privilege. And I said, well, what? And they said, what should we do? I said, well, the first step is you should get together with the other moms, and you should be going into that school and saying this is unacceptable. And they kept saying, but what should we do? Your child's not going to write the paper. You're going to go in as a group, not one group. Numbers count. So I do feel encouraged that we do have these issues. We're going to start going through in Florida textbooks. As far as the banning of books, why would a third grader need any kind of sexual anything? I was just reading very quickly that I saw a headline that came to me. Netflix canceled a show with a non-binary main character animation with Cyndi Lauper. What the heck is this? We know it's not working. We know most people in the United States, despite what the complicit media tells you, are not, trying to bring their kids to drag shows. That does remind me, though, shockingly, I shouldn't be so shocked that our own Attorney General, Letitia James, is sponsoring a drag show this week for kids. Now, that's the headline that I wake up to yesterday. When we have crime, when we have this youth mental health crisis and kids we need to focus on, jobs, empty storefronts. Although I was very encouraged today here in New York, having a lunch meeting, and the place was jam-packed, and it was a place that caters to tourists. So in the theater district. So that is happy news, that every table was full, and they're staying at the hotels because I see that they're going to Broadway shows. I have hope. You should have hope too. And let me leave you with some final thoughts. The thought for today is to take action with your children and to understand what their curriculum is. Talk to their teachers. I don't care if you say, I can't talk to them, or that it is your parental right. Show your child that you're doing something. Step up. Look at your child's lessons. Go as far as helping them. I don't care if they're 15, 16, 17 years old. Sit with them. Say, show me we got to get on it. There is no other way. Remember, community creates change. We're going to come together. We're heading already. I'm already looking at 2024, 2025. We must stick together. We must grow, and we must become warriors.